and welcome to yet another episode of The Lifting. This one is entitled The Musings of the Soul. And with us today is Mark Woodyard, a professional musician and all around basically creative individual here in the musical realm. And we will be talking today on how different music and different musical tones, as well as this type of creativity and some of the history behind it, actually affects the energies around us today. So what I'm going to do first, before we go into that, is go into the affirmation blessing. He's going to do a clearing, sound clearing, and then we will go into the interview. So I will say, oh, Mark, you can say, yeah, okay. Now, this is today's affirmation blessing. I had to recreate this in a hurry after our computer apocalypse that we had. So let's see. To the inner muse, your strength is the fire that carries the light of creation to the masses. To the inner warrior, you are the sword transformed into the pen. To the human, you are the conduit of creativity and passion. And that is today's affirmation and blessing. So, Mark, you can go right ahead.
Thank you for that, Chris. It was just what we needed to hear. And that's what it sounds like when you blow into a flute backwards.
And Isaac went, that's a wrap, folks. So, yeah. He's like, that's today's show, everybody. Bye now. Okay.
He's just joking.
Yeah, I know. But
How are we doing, everybody?
that worked quite well. It actually leveled a lot of these energies today. Just so everybody knows, it's 10/13/21, and the energies really suck today. So just let everybody know he managed to clear a lot of that with sound. So yeah, this is actually going quite well. I felt it just level. And that actually is actually quite nice. So, Mark, I don't know if you want to go get into it.
Yeah, I just got this idea. I guess you could say it's the experience of dipping in the Ganges. That's what I just kind of got, and I thought about the Ganges being like the cosmic, like the Milky Way of the universe, like where the soul dwells, where God is, that complete oneness. And I mean, that's just one way of seeing it, but I just felt like that's what that just did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, like I have to surrender myself completely. Then I become one with the sound. And then when I come back, I'm a little bit holier a person because I've surrendered and I've experienced the result of that. And now there are little minute moments when I, was just clammed up. But as you could probably see, I'm I just am myself when I'm performing, and I don't have the same kind of filters as when I'm speaking like this, and I can think about, oh, I better like look, I don't want to do anything but try to serve the greatest, greatest possible goodness and outcome for this universe and for all beings in all universes. I just think that it's a lot simpler for me to feel like I've gone to church, so to speak, than just by picking up my instrument, because of the ways that I've been enlightened and shown how powerful the music can be, and what my duties are as, I guess you could say, a muse of the omniverse. Um, and it makes me feel a lot less guilty with the perspective that maybe everything I experienced was to give me all of these different outlooks and into how different people have experienced things. Because I really truly have experienced what life could be like as a multi-billionaire, or like somebody who had absolutely nothing in the streets. And being in the street was more, there was more heart. I felt that people were, there was a community, there was compassion. And I feel you can become isolated by all of that energy if you don't know how to uh, organize it. And most of us don't have a need for that amount of any energy in the form of money, whether that's good or bad. It's not for me to be able to interpret that, because there's lots of complications, just as the stars are always in a new kind of alignment. But what I remember reading, most of my core wisdom, I think, in music, in shamanism, I guess you could say, even though I don't consider myself like a shaman in my inner thinking, it's very similar to that, like a musical priest. Like, I think I was Vivaldi in a past life. At least some aspects of my soul experience are Bach, or Bach, one of Bach's children, Vivaldi. I think I was Carl Philipp Emanuel, or at least I got to experience everybody's life by playing their music. So it's kind of confusing sometimes which one's me and which is not.
What you tune into, yeah, exactly.
I try, in like yourself, I've learned how to be able to still maintain my own authentic personality and identity, so I don't lose that. Going, as soon as I play jazz, I'm just like, like that's how the old cats were. It's great. I love imitation, but it's got to be at some point. That's kind of relative, I guess you could say, but it's not the same thing. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on just the direct experience, both of you, of getting information and then translating that into words, because obviously there were there times that that was in a musical way for either of you, that you were able to remember and share in some way?
So I was a very active member of a choir, and it was a very spiritual experience, for me to be
Absolutely.
able to sing in the harmonization of everybody. And, again, how it was able to change the frequency of a room. And, and then everyone, if they could relax, as you're saying, giving into the flow, if they could relax with it, it provides such an upliftment and such a clearing. And then, you could be in a certain place before then. And then once you're done with it, you're like, what was I cranky about? What was I, worried about? What was I, which is phenomenal. So, so for you, I think one of the questions that I'm curious about in your lifetime is simply, I'm assuming you were musical from a child. There was something there. But my question is more so,
Yes.
when did you really start to embrace the true spiritual healing and growth side of the music that you now try to create?
Thank you. That's such a well uh received question because of just where I'm at in my life, and I've reconnected with my mother, and I found a picture of myself when I was 3 or 4 years old when I started music, and it's a big one, and I call it my child because it's that it represents to me that is my child, and I can actually see the multidimensional self in pictures now. My dad's is really funny because his was printed onto a DVD, and his eyes look like they were burned on, like he's like giving me like the look like, don't fuck this up, son. I'm gonna, or I'll kick your ass. Even though he didn't like always talk like that. My father was a very creative Welshman who resembled Charles Bronson in some way, but had like the more of the personality of a Tom Jones type individual who was like the best at math in the state, and he was like he had rheumatic fever until he was 12 or 13, so he was home, and he got homeschooled, and then basically worked since he was 14, had like a nice cars and everything, but he never really discovered his passion. And near the end of his life, that was something that it reminds me of many of the the intergalactic stellar council of light. If that is what it is called, right? With Conrad and yourself.
Oh yeah, it's the Galactic Interstellar Council. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, it's important to get those things in the right order. And that's one of the things that I've been doing is just kind of taking a look back at myself by looking at the experiences that I've had. And the beautiful thing is when somebody like yourself, Joanna, has the insight to ask a question like that, because that's really what people care about hearing about. And that's like the last thing that I want to look at sometimes, but I am going to brave it right now because it's so important. And, and the only reason I'm hesitant is because I've had to work through traumatic experiences that I had at the same time. I had these wholly experiential phenomena, or to put it less like Terrence McKenna. When I was 3, I picked up the violin. Now, my first time playing in public was maybe when I was 5, 4. Yeah, we were exploited pretty young, but it was with a group of people. But by the time I was 5, I was playing in school at church every single day because I went to a Catholic school, and it was run by. It was expensive to go to. It wasn't like a public school, but it was a once in a lifetime like type of place where a bunch of really wonderful people had come together, and the teachers, there was really very few people that were like nasty or just mean. Like a lot of nuns get a bad rep, but those nuns seemed to be like the principal one year, and then she slapped me in the face, and then she was no longer there. And it was because I was doing like I was held back in kindergarten. And so my music teacher was also, or my kindergarten teacher was also the music teacher for that school. So it was like I bonded with her. I got to be playing music at school and church that I don't even remember. So there's like a side to my playing that goes beyond what I think of, but I spend most of my time thinking about and like implementing ways that I can be able to go with whatever I'm getting to play, which is just like being able to attune yourself as you both have, to be able to hear what is right and perfect to say, and harmonize in your own unique ways, which we could do a show on each one of those, and we'd never be able to touch the surface of it. But when I was 6, my mother just reminded me the other day that I was improvising. I was starting to change the notes, and I was the organist for the church, Immaculate Conception Parish, which is in the hill section in between my grandparents' house and mine, which is perfect. The organist lived next door to my grandparents' house, and I've been at my grandparents' house this past week doing yard work, vibrational cleaning, in some ways, because I see the landscape now, and I kind of helped get the landscape to look like it has, because my grandfather's later years, let me just put it this way: my mother's parents were like my second home, and my grandmother played the organ, and the next door neighbor was the lady who played at the church. So I had that angle, and then I had my father's side of the family, which my grandpa Tom was a wonderful grandfather who was in the Air Force, and he loved music. He was like an opera singer, one of the great bases of in the history of this region, really. And I remember he stopped drinking and started singing, and that was it. He was so proud of me, and I was so amazed. When I was 7 years old, I was accompanying him. He would sing a song. My mom was playing the piano, and she played the piano since before I was born. And basically, I feel like I got lifetimes worth of musical information because my exposure to the music was before birth, and then it can just continued on and on and on. And my mom said I don't even know what I was doing, Mark, but like she told me at times what she had been thinking in the past, but she doesn't even remember it now, which is beautiful because it's that means it's not important. But I think it's like a story that I get excited to talk about because I feel like this is like something that people should know about. It's like a heritage thing, like people should know. Play music for your kids. So like I've made CDs for people of music, and it's interesting because the music that I was playing at that time, Joanna, was whatever the Catholic hymns were, and also some beautiful pieces. I remember Bach Arioso. Very simple. I don't even know if that's not Arioso, by the way. But that was one of the pieces. It's funny that I was thinking of the book that this was in, and that's where I learned Arioso, which is. Um, there's the, anyways. I don't even think that that's correct. I think that was that. Yeah, that's Arioso, and then air on a G string is Speaking of astrology, I was born the same day as Lawrence Welk and Bobby McFerrin. So I was inspired by that. And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. We both have a very, very similar ability, me and Bobby, in the sense that I could hear things and imitate and like learn like that right on the spot. And so people like him, I like try to look to for inspiration because they're spiritual as well as like can convey something in a very simple manner. Like with 5 notes, he was able to get people all around the world dancing and singing. It was like everybody related to music, and that's what I love is that like since I was like a little kid, I was like I almost like had like the Mozart complex, but not so bad because I had both sides of it. I've seen both sides to the coin of being like uh successful and famous like from a young age, but like not having like things as well as being like shunned. Like during these times, it's really one of those things where I try to focus on what's going to unify humanity and people and family. It's got to start on a personal local level. We can't just complain why people aren't doing anything. I realize that simply because I'm forced to play music and I get to observe things happening. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad I just shut up because it's one of my, like I said earlier, greatest indulgences are words. But words, if you speak them correctly and from the heart, like I better sit with better alignment here. I feel like you, it doesn't matter because of this relationship I've had to music. Let me get to the point. Um, my earlier like teenage years, I was playing music in church, and I basically now am still playing for things that are related to church. I play a lot of for a lot of viewings now and funerals. Um, and I think it was when I played for the funeral of a senator from Pennsylvania that people saw me across the state. And it was the first time I played a jazz piece, like a classical piece almost, but it gave me the idea to combine, that there was no limitations with the music. And it was just because it was, uh, a song that the guy liked, and I loved that there were lyrics to it, because that's when I reconnected to what I had learned from my grandfather, which was like how to sing with the instrument, because I was like, and how to be able to play second fiddle, how to be able to work with people like a team, and you know, ride the craft together, so to speak. Like the spacecraft of the interstellar spacecraft of whatever that piece is that you're playing, it's creating like a vibration that's like emanating outwards throughout the universe. And so I think the ones that are the most potent are the ones that come from having a pure heart, and the music can sometimes help clear that and get rid of like all the guilt of the experiences like that we don't relate to anymore. You know what I mean? I think music can be very healing for people, and it can also be a programming tool. You know, like you could put on a piece of music and you might feel emotions. You know, it's amazing. Pardon me. It's amazing just how different in the spiritual sense I've experienced music on a healing level, and both for myself, because that's where it's coming from, and also it's usually inspired from the situation around me. And I feel like now what I'm doing draws on all of that life experience, and it helps me be able to relate to people and helps transform the grief just by me kind of combining things that I know are tried and true, like ritual, or like a, you know, just a certain set of, you know, I'm going to take my violin out calmly, get there 5 minutes early, have a glass of water, do all these different things that I've just, you know, gotten to the habit of doing to be able to perform as a catalyst for the greatest love of in the universe. Or, you know, and maybe it's Jimmy Page who's coming through me at one point, even though I wouldn't want that. There's times when somebody said, you know, this guy's favorite song is Freebird, you couldn't play that, could you? And I was like, well, can I? And then I whipped out my hidden guitar pedal, which I just happened to bring that day because I just been blessed enough to have all these things happening that I'll just ask, what should I bring today? You know, and I don't understand why. I might doubt it, but like today we were way delayed, but we had to wait for the right window, and we couldn't have known that until it happened. And I should have just accepted that. But, you know, that's the thing. Lily and I, my partner Lily, is a very intuitive and just incredible listener of music. So it gives me the other angle, like how, you know, I don't always hear the lyrics first. Everybody's got a different way of hearing the music. For me, it's kind of like when I was in the womb, it was just there. I didn't think about it, but my mom was also dancing aerobics and playing particular classical pieces on the piano that were loving and soothing, and singing to me all the time, you know, and having that from that young age, and then having that support all the way up, Joanna, until this day, where I've been honored to perform music for somebody's funeral. And so I've got a listening audience, a captive audience. So every note counts. And it's like, I could change somebody's life if I'm just honest with myself. It's just as simple as that. And the gifts that, well, it's not that simple, but it is that simple. I think that's something that everybody can relate to. And I feel like it's something that I can't really put into words how grateful I am that I'm able to do.
So I think as you said, a couple of really interesting things. One of them had to do with being experiencing all sides, which I think is very important. Experience a side of what societal norms is saying you're successful, i.e. money's flowing in or whatever, as well as being to the other end of it, of where what looks like of all, you know, failures of society, homelessness, people that are struggling. But your wisdom that came from all of these experiences was that, in honesty, the ones who probably are more open to the complete spiritualness of what's going on happen to be the ones that society may be just kind of casting aside. They would appreciate it more. They would grow from it more. They would, be able to be open to the healing effects to it more. So the interesting thing about society, I think in general, is the fact that, we may not have it right. When you're trying to integrate a spiritualness into something, who's really more receptive to that and grows from it, and who maybe isn't. And you would potentially think going to Carnegie Hall with the people showing up in their finest wares and making sure they're seen and making sure would be the ones who would get more out of it. But in all honesty,
it's the people that are supposedly at the bottom that would get more.
That actually, so it's an interesting dynamic. Obviously not a mistake that you got to see the breadth of it all and be within it to understand that there are moments of opportunity to spread a generalized healing and clearing and different things that may be done, in a way that is so meaningful, but goes almost let's say unrecognized, meaning, all of the people that are playing from their hearts that are just street musicians, the effects that they truly are having on the people just are walking by or can hear it in the distance. No one's thinking of it. Everyone's, other people are just kind of in their way. Oh, he's just playing to get a buck. But the healing that is affecting certain people who are healing this, the value in that is immeasurable. And it's people don't get that yet in the society of what's really going on.
That's interesting. I agree. And I feel that it's almost like an angel on earth. Like I remember there was a group that I played with that were, is that clear? You guys can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your head's a little low, but
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Let me just get my chair.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a group I played with called La Angels del Tierra. I forget how to say ANJ. Is it? Anyways, they were a Cuban group, so really great music. But I like that name, and I think that sometimes is. I didn't mean to get sidetracked. Now that I'm seated properly, it was like I feel sometimes like I'm channeling an angel, like and I try to make sure that they're benevolent. You know what I mean? That's something that playing in different spaces, you can be vulnerable. So I mean, you guys have helped us out a lot, especially me and my having tools that some of them are physical, that were like extra super thrifty. I was aware of a lot of the technologies like orgone, but like the orgonite, and what do you call it? Orgonite?
No, it's just, I'll use the word orgone because everybody knows what that is, but it's more or less just, you can call it orgone devices or, like devices that get rid of the different bad waves and entities and such. Yeah, like that piece. Yeah.
Like this one I got from the lifting. Is it .com?
.net.
Thelifting.net. Okay. That's right.
And also what you were saying about, bringing in the, what you said, you're channeling an angel. What you're doing is you're bringing in more of what people call the oversoul or the higher self, as you're clearing out a bunch of junk in your own life and going through the things you're going through. It brings in more of this higher aspect where you're able to bring in more of that creativity. Sometimes it comes through in writings, music, things of that nature. It doesn't come through always in words. Sometimes it'll just come through in a few notes that are being played, like the street musicians, like what you were saying. It starts to clear those energies as you go along. Sound is very powerful in that way. Whereas when you start getting a download in that way, it comes out in a variety of different ways. No, it doesn't always come through in a channeling like what I do. It comes through in a variety of ways, writing music, even creativity like TV, movies, something like that. It will come out in a variety of different ways like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that you actually have chosen to be involved with, things that people are just, they're just a part of something you just got to do. You got to have the funeral. You got to have, so what? They want a little music. But when you think of this on an energetic level for the people that are around, you have to remember you're dealing with someone, a soul that is on both sides. Most souls come back to their funerals, but it's a thinning of the veil of the energies. So it really can be, for some people, being there, a very transformational healing moment. And you're trying to take advantage of, I think, that moment to also push that, that healing through, because of the fact you do have, I guess I would say, the person who is deceased is now acting like a conduit to allow certain energies to come through, because they are coming through, creating a little bit of an opening. And so again,
Correct.
it's a very interesting dynamic, because again, what has happened in our society is, and again, that I work in hospice. So what's happened
Yes.
in our society is the pushing away of these moments as being a part of life, that they're on an energetic level, very, very powerful moments. If for some people, if they're, in the right place for healing, for transformation. So it's not I know you do many things, but the fact that you brought up, you also get involved in that area, it's not by mistake either. It's, again, that part of you that is really wanting to bring in a moment of transformation or healing without knowing who's going to truly be affected, just the opportunity to be able to make it available to people.
On some levels, I've understood that most of my life, but I'm just kind of awakening to that consciously in a consistent manner. I guess you could say I've always taken it seriously, but now because of how much experience I have, it's sometimes it's difficult, more difficult than others to uh, pull it together, but it's always such a unique experience. And like you said, the opportunities may present themselves, and a lot of times it's somebody asking for a song. Other times it's me just going in and being very clear as to what I'm going to do, which is great, because most of the time, even if I have something planned, I'll think of something else that I could insert in there. Or like I don't like to follow schedules exactly. I think that they should be there as like a reference, but why follow something to a T? That can allow for us to be in some way or form manipulated or controlled if we're going to do something consistently always the same way. I try to always do it differently. Yeah, whether it's a piece of music, I'm never going to play it the same exact way, just because my playing is intimately connected to my heart, and my heart has to go through this process when I'm playing of just becoming fully in tune with the situation, or the music doesn't come across in a way that I feel is meaningful or powerful. And I feel it's a responsibility to humanity, to myself, really, my child, and to the universe to be able to do that. And I think that it would be a wonderful world to see uh, the next generation of young people, or future generations, uh, do that. I'm curious if I'm sure that there are societies. Uh, I know of at least one in the Pleiades that Chris, I believe you mentioned Mozart went back to, and that just considering that. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, there was, from what I understood it, there were a lot of musicians, a lot of artists that came from different areas. Like you have Da Vinci that came from the dwarven homeworld of the World of Wheels. You had Freddie Mercury who came from the Pleiades. You have Mozart who came from the Pleiades. You have a lot of these different musicians that came in to add a particular harmonic at a particular time in history, that began to slowly bring up the energy in some way, or bring about some innovation in some fashion. Like Da Vinci, for instance, he brought about different innovations, even though I found out he was also from the future as well, came back with the history and came back and essentially time travel. The 2 years that he was gone, or a couple of years he was gone in the cave, he actually went through history, came back relatively around that same time frame to gather information and go back around. But with somebody like Mozart, who lived a short lifespan here, in that short amount of time, there was like this harmonic that he added that still is resonating today. There's other aliens that come in, incarnate with certain codes. Like there's a race called the Toroth that comes in from time to time from the boots. They'll add in a particular harmonic to stabilize something that was more unstable. And this is what the music does. This is exactly what the music does. Is it will stabilize that harmonic. Like at the very beginning of the show, when you played the flute, it started to stabilize the different chaotic harmonics that were out right now. There was like a cacophony of like different sound tones and different energetic tones that were playing. But when you played that, it seemed to just kind of shockwave it and level all of it. And that's what took place. And good, you have your violin with you. Yeah, at least the one that didn't get smashed a little while ago, unfortunately. Yeah.
I know, very emotional.
Yes.
But it's also interesting that you find that you appreciate the power of words and being able to do things in a communicative and a word sort of way. Yeah. It's having the ability to bring forth certain frequency, of course, in words is really no different than you being in your lane, bringing forth certain frequencies within the musical sense. It's not unusual, I don't think, for someone who sees this in a way of its importance in healing, in transmutation, in different things, to look at somebody who's in a little bit different lane of what they do and really find appreciation for it. Because again, definitely, one of the magnificent things about all of us is the fact that you can cut a pie in many different ways, transformational, different things. Those people who work in the transformational breathing arts are again, someone else. All of the different ways that we have managed to discover and continue to work on, and in different ways of the process of growth, transformation, and healing to be able to expand ourselves more. So, you can look at many different things. I found it really interesting, the conversation that we were having, which I'm just kind of looking at time, and I know we were trying to keep this, so I'm going to move this forward to the conversation that we were having actually before we started recording, because again, part of what we like to talk about is how people are being affected in this world right at this moment. And then, what actually can be done to help with transformation, healing, moving forward, and different things like that. We were talking a little bit because, we try to be quite honest here. Life has not been a piece of cake for virtually anyone over, the past, year and a half to 2 years, but really there's been quite a struggle going on for a lot of people in the last few months. And really, since this recording is on the 13th, it's been really hard for a lot of people in the last few weeks, even struggling more and more. One of the things, again, that I'm not an expert on at all, but I do recognize it's relevant to the conversation, has to do with the energies of astrological alignments. And so one of the things that's been added in to all of the dynamics, if that weren't enough, was the astrological alignments of many planets going into a retrograde kind of situation, including, if you count Pluto, which, is it a planet or not? But if you count it, then you can see during this time frame is that 6 planets have been in a retrograde cycle, which normally, can lead to things quite not working right. You could even be a really solid, good relationship, and even that can be strained. And it's a transformational time because it's really, let's say, with those energies shaking loose with their vibrations, shaking loose things that maybe need to come up and be released. But during these times, things that often need to come up and be released are not going to be done while things are hunky-dory. There's going to be stress. There's going to be, it could be anything like, you can't keep from bumping into walls every other minute until, you're literally bruised. Or you normally think of yourself as calm, cool, and collective, like to go into neutral, like to think, and even you're having a hard time not reacting, just reacting, even that may not even really be how you identify yourself. And so, but all of this now at one time, is extraordinarily difficult for absolutely anybody. And again, what we're talking about, what we've always talked about, is people becoming, whether they recognize it or not, they are becoming more sensitive to the energies around them. So what is you and what isn't you, it can translate into complete physical symptoms. The most common one would be like you're feeling this hard pressure that's come down on you. You're wondering if you're getting ready to have a sinus infection, or you're feeling pressure on your heart. Your blood pressure could go up. You're like, am I ill? Am I not ill? I'm going to the doctors. They can't find anything wrong. I mean, there's just a myriad. And again, emotional stress. And a lot of it, again, is that frequency shaking that's going on at a planetary level that's, coming your way. And, along with the confusion of what is me and what isn't me, because it's all a big mishmash. I don't know if you want to add to any of this, but it's just how difficult the times have been recently.
Yeah, it's been like basically we Interstellar Council like to call it the chaotic soup, because you have energies coming from like the central sun, energies coming from the different planets, energies coming from our sun, from the earth, all the bad guys' energies, all the thought forms of humanity that are just kind of culminating. All the history of humanity, good and bad, is all culminating. And whenever also anything politically starts to hit, you hear humanity getting more and more scared or something like that, it starts to kick up more and more, and it affects those that are more and more sensitive. So the tones that this music puts out, this is why more people are turning to music and turning to this creativity and turning to the musings of the soul, as I put it. They're actually counteracting a lot of that junk.
It's like human galactic nature. Yeah, I agree. I think we all have ways of, they talk about psychic self-defense and all these different things, but I always thought the key to health and protection is in the audible sound range, just because we live in the 3D physical realm that we can experience those frequencies. So the bandwidth that we hear in music, and it's basically like a little bit beyond our hearing, but I think that even within one octave, there is every frequency in the universe. So I would just swipe up on my violin like this. Let me just put this incense over here. Just trying to clear the energies. They're really heavy back here. There's like a bunch of routers underneath me. Like an office that has God only knows what computers are being stored down there. It's not mine. We're renting. We're looking for a new place soon. I don't want to say that too loud because I think like they can even hear me. I'm not like paranoid about anything except for that talking about that stuff.
Oh yeah, like it doesn't always conjure things when you say things. It's just like when you were saying putting things on a schedule, That's why I try to sometimes drift a little bit. I have to originally schedule for sessions, but at the same time, some of these energies don't allow for that, or else you're going to get targeted each consecutive.
Yes, yeah. You get it. Well, that's why you've been so patient with me then. And then I'm like, okay. Thank you. Yeah, just like within like, I feel like that's like my international, intergalactic, like slice of the sword type of, my signature move type of thing. I like it. But within that one octave, you start at, well, let's just start at A, because that's the first letter of the alphabet. And that's the way that the mouth shapes that sound. Every single letter it does that. B, there's two different circles. And I was talking to my Brazilian friend Michael, who's learned many languages and learned viola quickly. And he told me that he had discovered the connection in the phonetics right after I had just experienced saying the alphabet out loud and basically realizing that the shape of the sound, or like the way that it travels through your mouth in some sort of sonic way or airway, is depicted in the alpha in the alphabet. I was going to say the alphanumerics because that's really what it is. It's like both. That's what I see music as, like. And being able to substitute one thing for another is helpful and important because everybody uses different systems, and that's kind of like how astrology works. So I've got one thought, but just so you can hear that's an A. A, B, C. Apparently, those combined are like very powerful. I don't know, but so like within just that one, you've got the. Now, my belief is that if you just hear those sounds, that there could be an effect on the body that is beneficial, and that's why it's good to listen to a lot of different types of music from different parts of the world and in different tunings, because I think it can have a healing effect on the body and on spiritual levels. It can, like, it basically, what happens when I play places is like it breaks the energy free, it clears the space, it allows for what's right and perfect. So I just have to get out of the way. That's basically, in a
You
nutshell,
step aside and
everything
allow it
else
yeah.
from that very initial experience playing in the churches and being in choirs. When I was in college, I went back to school and I wanted to learn how to play every instrument and teach. And I realized I don't want to teach, but I'm going to still take the classes. I don't care. I'll just pay it back someday. And then I decided I'm not going to pay them back because they're going to forgive the loans anyways. So whatever. And I don't make enough to be able to have to pay back, which is also awesome. It's like, well, you don't make enough. So if, as long as you don't have, you have to make payments for 15 years, we'll wipe you clean. I'm like, now, how does that work? I guess it's like a benefit of being a musician. One of the few like perks that you have on in the economic, but where we're going with this, right, is like, how can people, like, I want people to understand, like, that the microcosm is in the macrocosm. So like that one octave of frequencies, if you resonate that within your own chest, in whatever tonal capacity you feel is like centered around the heart, then you've got your heart frequency, and basically you've got the harmonics that you can feel go up your body as you just make your tone go upward. So, you know, if somebody watches this, they could always do this back, but I'm just going to do it. That's pretty extreme, but just even you could tell I haven't done my vocal warm-ups in a while, but that really does hit everything in the universe in some sense or of form, because
Like
every
the
octave
home
is
tone
a
that's out there.
harmonic or a subharmonic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you can resonate more strongly with like things like that might have been not quite the frequency, but I'm really not sure, because things change due to the changing harmonies of the spheres. That's why a couple things from that book I was mentioning, Hazrat Inayat Khan's Mysticism of Sound and Music. That was the book. It's also called The Music of Life. And it talks about how one note can basically reverberate across the cosmos like a drop in a pond. And when I think about that pond, and it's like a sheet of glass, and I remember I pushed this piece of driftwood into this beautiful pristine lake in Vermont, and I saw those ripples go across, and I realized that was my thoughts. I didn't even make a sound. And I thought, those are my thoughts. So the sound wave has even more of a powerful effect. It's not biased or it's not locked into thought form. But in touching that lake, I psychically felt in an emotional, I guess you could say, it's more like an empathic way. I felt all the hopes and dreams that people had for me that were from the area that I live in. And I realized I had to return and I had to help my grandparents. And it all came clear to me in that moment. And I still think about that, the image of the lake with the sun going down. I had driven there in like a push. It was like a moped, the Porsche of mopeds, push. And anyways, that's a whole nother story about the. I actually didn't go there. Did I go there in the moped? I did fly off the handlebars the first time I ever rode it, but I'm stubborn. Like that's like how, like picking up the violin, you got to be like tenacious and just say, this is my my instrument. This is what I was born to do, and I can learn how to do this. That's how I've had to kind of get my self back on my feet from my hammer is behind the screen. I'm not even going to show you that, but basically, like you had said at the very beginning of the show, is the intention. It's that is true. The pen is my instrument. I also feel like the bow is my instrument. And it makes me think of that book, the Mysticism of Sound and Music, and Yehudi Menuhin, and the other influence on me when it came to yoga and violin. And he got into Indian history and the Vedas. Yehudi Menuhin, he wrote the foreword to Light on Yoga, and he was a great virtuoso violinist who broke his arm and discovered. He went to India, and he was a wealthy British intellectual who basically wrote the foreword to Light on Yoga by P.K.S.A. Iyengar. So that all these things connected from me very young. I was like spirituality and the best musicians, and like being in tune, and like learning about the different martial arts, and then the different esoteric things, and like what numbers and letters and ABC combined, I heard is really good. I've got some YouTube music that people could go to on my youtube.com/mark WOODYATT. And then it's just under slash sets, and then you'll see ABC. I think I called it CAB, cab. That wasn't I don't know if that's also like an Illuminati reference, but that was definitely not intentional.
No, I don't believe that is. No.
I like cab is like cab. Yeah, for me that's not what that represented. So
it's the intention you put into it anyway. So yeah.
You're right. I was just thinking about that the other day, like ABC. I just like ABC. I was friends with this guy Bob Duro, who did the Schoolhouse Rock, and he's from the heart, beautiful person, and he just made music that educated people. And yet I still plan playing at the farmers market next Wednesday with Doug Smith, who played music with Bob and many generations of musicians before me. And I realized, living in this really tough town, this coal town of Scranton, Dunmore, that they would always send the musicians from New York City here to test them out first, because we were like, it was like Vegas pretty much. It was like they had the toughest music critics because the people worked hard and played hard. They played music, and the Irish fiddle, they played all different types of like the Italians had their mandolins. And I was just in a club, played a private party the other day, and I played a couple traditional mandolin tunes on the violin, just to appease the spirits of the place, so to speak. And they were like ancestral as well. And it's interesting how my life has been in particular, because the person that I've been with for 10 years at least, who's not here right now, unfortunately, but she'll hopefully be joining me for the next episode, just found out that she is definitely of a certain family that were the related to, if not the cousins of the same family. Basically, they shorten the name to Amati. I'm not going to tell you the actual family, but she's a baroness now. She always was, but I feel like she's got that self-respect and appreciation of the fine arts. It goes back to the time of before Plato. I mean, it's well known. I think in the universe, I don't know this. I'm just going to say this because when I say I don't know, that doesn't mean that whatever I'm saying is not necessarily true. I think this might be true, and I'm getting this, that what Plato had showed through his model of like what the philosopher king is a good thing to look at now, to be integrated into just a basic human being's understanding of like what will make me the most efficient human being. And music is just part of it. It's not even looked at like emotionally. Like you can just look at it and, you know, say, well, this will make more money for us. Like this will make our students do better. This will help people deal with their emotional stress. This will help clear the energies of the space. This will help change the structure of the medications. This can help override any effects of nanotechnology. This can help clear your soul. This can help. So if you just play some of my music, that's why I make music. And there's so much of it. I really feel like that's why I put so much out there for free. And I've always believed that I would be sustained, and I had to basically get my shit together totally before I was ready to come out into the world and like really talk about what goes behind this. But the people like that Hazrat Inayat Khan talking about like how one note can affect us. When you were talking earlier about Pluto, Joanna, I thought of Pluto and how I just recently learned that, well, it's going to be losing like 12,000 square miles of ice or something like that, or 12 million cubic, tons of it. Who knows? It was 12 million something, I think. And that would take it over the category, into the category of planetoid. And, whether it's a planet or a planetoid, or if it's a planet or not a planet, I think that's what it is.
Sometimes it's considered a planet, sometimes it's a moon, sometimes it's, yeah.
So if you think about that planet being in a period of maybe retrograde, I don't know. This is something I would just look up, and I will. And then being in a period where there was more ice, right? What is ice like, right? It's like, it's going to change. If you think about like something that would be resonating that you can hear, if you've ever made a really loud frequency near like a very fragile like sheet of ice, like on a pond. I remember blasting techno music and then looking at how the effects of that were on this like pristine lake when we were on a bridge over, and I was like, I can actually see the ice cracking. This is fascinating. And then I looked up and I saw this craft that was floating by, not like this quite. It was like up to basically this much, with this type of shape, that taper to it, and it had this yellow energy that was going back and forth between the two nodes. They look kind of like the things on Empire Strikes Back. The Bespin Flyers, and in the third Star Wars movie, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, those Bespin speeders, with kind of like this color.
Yeah.
But this, I couldn't see it. It was like I could see through it, and I was thinking, is it just because when I was traveling through the mountains with my friend, and we decided that we would eat these chocolates that he had, and then realized that there were mushrooms in them. And then I'm seeing like all the different indigenous people that had lived there in the frozen crystals of ice that are on the road, that basically it wasn't even like crystals of ice. It was like the road actually changed color because they had flooded this major city. And that's one of the reservoirs for New York City now. It's called the Papacton Reservoir. So it was kind of spooky for me. And also I was like back in college, and it was stupid, but at the same time, I remembered that experience going, he doesn't even see it. I'm like, great. And it was totally silent. This craft went by, and I mean, if they're tuned into frequencies, they're just way higher than we can hear. And that's what I'm trying to get to, is what we cannot hear doesn't have the same intensity as what we can hear. So we're being bombarded all the time by frequencies. Yeah, and some of them are scalar, but there's always a fundamental. So like, I feel like we're going into a world where it's kind of like we need to kind of equip ourselves both spiritually and technologically, kind of like the Borg in, if you've ever seen The Next Generation, the best of both worlds, when they're hitting them with the phaser and then all of a sudden they adjust.
Yeah.
That's like what we need to be like, be able to have sympathetic technologies, I call it, because I researched cell phone towers 22 years ago when I was back at the Eastman School in Rochester, and I finally had a search engine. It was like having a library basically wherever you go, and I was blown away by that. I was specifically looking for the effects of cell phone towers, and I found that there was all this legislation that led to them just changing the phase of these arrays. They didn't change the frequency spectrum, they just made it phase a certain way. So like that might be what's going on a local solar system level in some cases, like even though it's always changing, they're still within the spectrum that like they're always going to go in a certain order and come back again. So it's almost like a phase if you think about it, because like with whether there's some more atmosphere, less atmosphere, what that is it's like the timbre changes, but the shapes, maybe like the masses of these planets, like they pretty much aren't going out into space. So if I was going to make a musical analogy, it'd be just kind of like, this is what a lot of the composers that I was influenced by, after I played this piece called The Planets, I was like, wow, that's super powerful. Like, what's going on here? This made me feel like I was in the middle of the Lord of the Rings, or like in the middle of like some incredible heroic battle.
Oh yeah, the Planets album, Holst's The Planets, is actually a very powerful album. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I that like Mars, Bringer of War, and all those other songs that are
playing it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we used to practice it in this great hall, and that was the other thing you had mentioned earlier, Joanna, about the sacred space and how we can bring that to people and how we can experience that. And how, when you were you'd mentioned this earlier when we were talking, and you had been you were in a choir and you had sung with, I think that was recorded. So I was just thinking about how somebody named Sadhguru, who I think is pretty awesome guy, he built a temple that was based on these sacred spaces. And I was thinking about how one of the things that we could work on together, maybe even in some capacity. I was just inspired to share this with you, because I thought, oh my gosh, maybe we'll do this. And maybe other people that would be able to help will get, be interested in the same type of project. I feel like there needs to be a total because I feel like I'm an inventor, as well as I get all these ideas that come out. If basically, if I was in Elon Musk's shoes, the world would be a much better place, like so much better. I'm so much smarter than him. And it's just because I realized that, God's the boss. And so that wisdom comes through me. I didn't play today. And next time we do one of these, I'll make sure I play, because I feel like I become enlightened when I play. Like, and it's like a healing thing. So that's another thing. It's like the responsibility that we all have to do our own, duties in life. And how do we harmonize? How do we clean the harmonics without necessarily dipping into the Ganges, literally? Because water does have the capacity to energize and ground. And that was the other thing I thought of initially as soon as you were saying something about these energies, Joanne. I wanted to share that. Lily got a grounding pad kind of recently, and I feel like it's having like one extra type of vat. Like, okay, I feel like energetically squashed right now, but I also am aware that we're in a physical environment where there's these energetics that we pick up on our basically our bodies function like batteries, and almost like stars, in the sense that, I mean, we are stars obviously, but we are stardust, but we emanate things that are like, almost like, they talk about them like pheromones. But it's happening like that. That's what they say are the spikes that you can, block with vitamin D, and it's like all this stuff. And I'm like smoking cigarettes because I heard nicotine blocks any type of virus from binding to you. And I'm like, I would always have a couple of cigarettes that were organic. And when I was heavily smoking, and then I would get better. It'd be like, oh, I had to smoke to get better, but it would just take a day or two to get better. And so like being like beating the crap out of myself, I realized that playing music actually keeps me in a much better healthy state, because I got this instrument, I'm connecting to my body, and I'm participating in making music all the time. And I think anybody could benefit from just indulging your musical qualities, but also being open and asking, right? For each one of us, especially those of us who are willing to ask. I think it's a really important thing to do, because Lily was saying to me the other day, and I was starting to say this earlier too, so now I'm finally getting all the rest of the pieces. That was disturbing, and I thought that was the piece I loved, like since I was like a kid, coming home to earth by John McLaughlin. And now that I know what was going on in his life, it sounds very disturbing, and I must have been disturbed. That must be me. Okay, so the universe is, everything I see that's wrong with the universe is within me. Okay, that's something we all can consider, right? I definitely realize that. And so there's a right time to play music and a wrong time. And this is the other thing about Hazrat Inayat Khan's book that was in it. It said up until the mid 1970s, even a homeless person in India would feel ill if they heard a raga that was played, that's an evening raga in the afternoon, for example. They were that musically sensitive. And well, he didn't say that, right? But what that means is that they're so in tune with the cosmos, because their system of music took me many years of playing with it. And I had a mystical experience the first time I ever got, it's Dr. L. Subramaniam. I found an album. It just felt like it was meant to be. It popped out. It was in a little CD place in Baltimore, Maryland. And I brought it back to Scranton. I played it when I got home. And I tried to listen to it in my CD player, I think, when I was on the car ride, and that wasn't it. When I got home, I put it on, and it was a late summer's evening, almost like around now, just a little bit, like maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe even 2 weeks ago, right before the transition. Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Anyways, the birds were dancing. I blasted this. I opened all the windows. I had this new stereo system. I still have it. It's in my old Panasonic super woofer, but it was a surround system. And the birds would always listen to the music that I played. Because one of the things I do every morning is I try to play a song for the birds and the animals, even if it's just like a couple little whistles, making an attempt to make music, trying to always remain humble, because that is where the inspiration comes from. That's where the clarity comes from. That's where the heart connection comes from. And the animals help me to keep healed, because it brings me such joy to be able to interact with them on this level, where when I go to bed, when it's right before sundown, I'll try and play a beautiful piece on the violin that's soothing. Because there are times when I'm not doing that. I'm playing crazy music, and so that makes me feel like it's very important for me to do this, no guilt, right? I'm trying to get beyond that, that word, because that's part of the upbringing of Roman Catholics. They're very guilt oriented, but it functions well. It keeps you in line. I think they talk about in the future, people will just be paranoid that they're always being viewed. So they'll do the right thing. They'll act appropriately and not do immoral things, because they feel like you're always being watched. When in reality, from my understanding, that is actually what is going on. And we're like in a virtual TV show where I sometimes hear the laughter. I know that you.
Oh yeah, we're in a big TV show with all the galactics too. Essentially, we're a reality show.
But you brought up a good point. So the point that you brought up several times, you actually brought it up earlier when you said, I can't quite remember my early years. And, and then, other points that you brought up, including the one that you just brought up, listening to an old piece of music that all of a sudden you find disturbing. It's a very interesting thing, because again, as we grow and change, the frequencies that are more comforting around us are going to grow and change. And so, or what's going on, or the frequencies you want around you at the moment to support whatever it is that you're currently going through, be it whatever emotion that you're currently going through. So all of that continues to grow and change. In the time that we are right now, and you brought up Pluto, and you brought up the ice, and you brought up the melting. So for me, you know, when I hear things like that, my mind tends to go to times when the current truth is the truth, the solidification of the ice. This is the belief system you're currently in, and the time to shed, and the time to that people tend to want to shed because they're in an expansive type of period. So to me, with all this chaos around, this is an expansive type of opportunity period for people, if they wish to grow in. So catastrophes, and you know, Chris brought it up earlier, the breaking of a beloved instrument that just occurred,
and also my computer,
and
that got
also
fried, yeah.
right, when you think about that in the sense of in a musical way, are you meant to now still be in the music of the past, or are you now supposed to go forward with the creation of the future you wish to see? So it's very difficult, I think, right now. And one of the things that actually has been happening, since we can't have a conversation on our type of show without talking about the interference. So one of the interferences that are happening is, if you can keep people emotionally down, they no longer do things like hum, sing, you know, even
you can't sing because that's
music.
bad for your health.
Right. So the
goal, when I heard that, I thought they're part of the, you know, the band.
Yeah.
But I got to be the person who broke the ice. And it was right after my friend died. So I was like, I had just like the guy that made that violin, that fixed that violin up, that just broke. So hopefully he's no longer here to fix it. But I just received a grant today, which I'm going to be using to get one of his older instruments, which is a very powerful instrument. And I lost my thought there for a second. I was talking about my friends.
So from the old to a new now, from a change.
Yeah.
Right. The and so they hadn't had music in the church, and I played a wedding, and then there was a mass that had come in, and I had this instrument just for one day that it was his last instrument, and it was like he had just like kind of figured out the mystery of the cosmos, and it was in that instrument. And there is a YouTube video of it. It's called Rachmaninoff Vocalise. It was, and all the pain that I had felt, all that all the death that I had seen, all the unnecessary people that were suffering, in my opinion, at this time, of course, you know, because I'm just an observer. I cannot engage too much. I cannot make somebody do something. And I don't feel like intervention is at this point. People have made their choices. And if people don't ask for help, then don't waste your time. You know, we don't know what people's paths are. That's one of the things that the music has shown me, and playing something like that and conveying all of that emotion. Maybe that was just for me, you know, but at the same time, it was so absolutely gorgeous that the only thing that it could have gotten me to play it that well was, you know, a bitch slap from the universe. You know, so to speak. That's subjective too.
Yeah. So
we don't really know why we're experiencing things
right
all the time.
So the importance of our conversation today, why we felt it was so relevant, and to bring on somebody who's trying so hard in a true spiritual upliftment that is cognitive in your mind as you're doing everything that you're doing, is the fact that, you know, we want to also remind people of the opportunity to explore music as a way to refine yourself and where you are. Because again, that exploration may have completely changed. It's like you may have listened to certain songs when you were younger and they were your go-to. They may not be the appropriate go-to anymore. So that exploration of music now may help you refine who you are now, that gives you the sustenance to continue to heal and grow and move how you'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. That's correct. And don't be attached to what, like, I'm attached even to this, but I've just thought of so many people saying that was the music that was my, that's our generation of music, or blah 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 blah. And I think, well, they even have these scientific studies which say, well, what you listen to between ages, I think they're like 16 or 15, like, well, your coming out years, a lot of times people get stuck in that. And I thought about somebody that I've been helping, who's a family member, who introduced all this music to me, which is fantastic. But as Lily had pointed out to me, and as you had just said, Joanna, and I think as everybody really needs to hear, there's new music to be discovered, whether that's new music for you. Allow that to happen. I just did the other day, traveling back from a job, the Apple Music was on random, and it seemed like every single tune was just what I needed to hear. And that's how you know you're in tune with yourself. Because and we can all have, everybody has this can have these experiences and phenomena, and most people probably have them. And I guess if you're able to look at it in such a way that you're affecting things, like, that's what I think people have they think, oh, well, what I think doesn't matter. Yes, it does. It's a vibration, you know what I mean? It's and those there's music that we can all engage in one capacity or another, and I encourage everyone to do that, and encourage the young people to, because there's so much information out there. And I mean, of course, if anybody is interested in insight from me, I do offer coaching, I offer lessons, and workshops, and I've got a lot of different types of musicians and sound healers that I can work with and have worked with, as well as what I feel is just very healing, which is having a balance of Western classical music, jazz, and then world music. It's just, they're all important to me, but the ones that resonate the most, I think, were Indian, Balinese. I have an oud. It's like an Egyptian oud, and that gives me this, like, entrance into the mystical realm of, it's just like the violin. There's no frets. That sounds Chinese. They said that as soon as Western music came into China, it took 100 years before all of the entire country broke down. Before that, the most important thing to the emperor was that every single kingdom was tuned to the same frequency.
Interesting.
So a global world, power would want to have just a system that was in tune with one another, and ironically, also the frequency that our electronics and computers run in is A440. So that's part of why, when I grew up, I thought, oh, I've got perfect pitch. I'm tuned to this frequency, which is just one frequency that we've been accustomed to using. But I found ones that have more power, and you can get apps that can attune your music to this, are ones that can make it 432. I know, but a lot of people talk about that. It doesn't work for everything. And we can get into the physics of that, because I'm well aware of them and could I've got my own theories. But 444 is very powerful as well. That's one of the angelic tunings. That means that your A frequency is tuned to a 444. And I had just tuned that violin that got crushed, which is going to cost a few $1,000 to repair, unfortunately. But that was me, my own karma. That basically, it's like instant karma, being able to do what I do and do it so well at times comes with having to be completely responsible, and sometimes
Yeah, exactly.
I get,
yeah, exactly.
So, Mark, if someone did want to reach out to you, can you give an email or something that they could reach out to you to?
Absolutely. Thank you. That would be heartstringsllc@protonmail.com. Heartstringsllc@protonmail.com. And I'm also on YouTube as Mark Woodyat, and I think there's other things, like you could search for Mark Edwards Violin at gmail.com is like the address associated with that account. But I think you immediately find it's got 134 subscribers and lots of cool videos. I just put one out this morning that I've been working on, that it was recorded in this beautiful space called the Luzerne County Courthouse. When I was first let into this building, I realized this was like a Tartarian masterpiece that was like a power center. There's like, if you see the video, you'll see where I went with it. Just like in my imagination was running wild, but I had heard that when the river flooded, this thing flooded up to the second floor, and I thought, how is that possible? It had to have a very complex system of like hydraulics underneath for the water to be pushed up through that. Because this thing is solid stone and it's got steps. It's got to be hundreds of feet above the river. So, but it was really gorgeous in its acoustics. The guy said that the janitor, he said, this is the finest acoustics in any building in America and possibly the world of its kind, a courthouse. Like there's nothing like it, nothing made so gorgeously well. And with these ancient harmonic math things, basically they knew acoustics very well. And it makes me wonder just how much knowledge really hasn't been lost. It's just going to kind of finding its way back into the mainstream of thought. Like basically, if thoughts have a vibration, which they do, then like I was saying before, the best thing to do is to play music. And there are times, okay, one other thing just to share is that this gentleman, Jacob Cole, and I make a lot of music together. Let me turn this off. He's a great handpan player. And we came up with this music when we were playing in a hospital. So I got to see your end of things a little bit, just a little bit. And also hospice at the same time, because my grandparents had dealt with the same hospice of the Sacred Heart and hospice of there's a few other ones that were in the area. So we were funded by a hospice center, and it was for people that were in the intensive care unit. We'd also go to nursing homes and veteran centers, which was to me absolutely an honor to be able to do this, because I felt like I'm able to keep myself without being corrupted by not being like controlled by people. For the level of brilliance of a musician that I've been blessed to be, I haven't been compromised in those big ways of like having to, sell your soul to the devil and, pay the dude that's the really famous producer and everybody loves, with some kind of compromise to my artistic, or person, and I could see how easy that could have happened to me, because that was what I thought I wanted. But I never, on some level, I never consciously wanted to do anything that would have been negative to myself. But you think, well, why am I not famous? I'm like the best violinist I've ever heard, and like I could play circles around anybody when it comes to improvisation. But then you meet people that are better than you, and one way or another. And then I sought them out. Then I'm like, I want to be able to keep myself in check when it comes to my violin stuff. But it was this aspect, this healing aspect, that this holistic hands-on, my mother having had cancer and seeing, knowing how I had been shaped and affected by being around music, and how it helped me through the worst times. And what really kind of saved my life, what I feel was going into public schools. And then my teacher, Cindy Gowell, was so wonderful, and she exploited me, had me play every day for people. And so I got into being able to soldier through like whatever, always being ready to play like a soldier for music. And I think that everybody in the world has the potential, whether it's before your soul and your genetics combine or not. I think that partially it's we know where we're coming, there's different ways to look at it, but let's just look at it, the eternal. There's no accidents, right? And how can we enhance our lives? And I could talk about a million things, but I really feel like what we touched on earlier, which was just that simple, like know when to play the right song at the right time. And if something doesn't feel right about music, there might be an emotional connection. Now, the evidence has been proven because the hospital that I performed at with my friend Jacob, he plays handpan. He would come up with these melodies out of the blue, and he'd come up with a piece. He'd come in, and then I would add something to it. Sometimes it would be trying to figure out exactly what he was doing, but I would be able to play with him immediately. It was like this ability we have to do, and it was really special. And nobody had any association with the music. That was what I was getting to. There's something to be said about, and there's all, you could look this up. Anybody could look up, like, how can I create my own music or generate tones, and I can help anybody with that because I've spent tens of thousands of hours and thousands of dollars on apps and different things that I don't even really use, but I know how to use a lot of different tools, and I'll use a little tiny tool for this, a little tiny tool for that. A lot of times it's just as simple as getting my violin out and playing, not plugging it in a million things, So to zip it off, the experience that I had this past weekend was totally powerful in the sense that I played for this festival. It was opening up a festival. I played some cool reggae violin stuff, and I wanted to get out of the festival grounds as soon as I was finished performing because I needed to get back to Scranton. It was some ways. And so when I was on my way out, there were some people, and we were talking, and the guy shared with me that his grandfather was a violinist. And he never heard him play. And so I thought I might as well play this guy something. And when I did, we had such a sincere conversation. I realized that I just kind of gotten a bunch off my chest. And then when I started talking about it, is it bringing back up? And that's the replaying of the memories. That's where Lily's spirituality has affected me in a very deep sense, because she's shown me that Lily's my partner, and she has she does Ho'oponopono, which which is a Hawaiian process, and it's really affected the way that I approach and think about things, because it simplifies things into just like, what am I doing? Am I reliving these memories? Am I allowing these memories to replay, or am I going to clean them and clear them? And the music, to me, the frequencies, they can clear them. And I on one last thing I just wanted to share was when I was leaving the hospital for the last time. This is right before the pandemic happened. It was about a month before, in December 2019, with Jacob. This doctor said to me, we've done studies now for the last 2 years on all the folks that would come through here, and they take surveys. He said, we found what was the word? Like, pretty much clear evidence that the music had a profound and meaningful effect on both the people that were visiting and the people that were in the ICU. And the lady that hired me, Donna, she when she heard that, she winked at me, and she said, well, that's because they could feel those frequencies. They don't have to be right next to you. You're just like we're talking about scalar, there's all sorts of frequencies that I believe at this point have not been measured. But my theory is that they're all within one octave of sound, and that octave is within you. And if you can just hit those harmonics in your own body, in the shower, going up and down, feeling that resonate, you can actually feel if you have an injury or something that needs to be healed. You can actually find I find where it resonates by putting my hand on my Adam's apple, which I think helps me. And then when the frequency that resonates at the most crosses it, you bring your finger down with it, and you can find the tone of your heart, which is pretty much like. And the fundamental to something, the reason that resonates is because its number is half of that of the octave above it. So that is 220 hertz. Do is 110, 55. You know what I mean? Then you're getting lower than you can hear. But those lower tones have all the higher overtones in them. And the higher tones I think that's why they have the Schumann resonance is like this low frequency interacting with a high frequency. And that's why the harmonies in music are infinitely explorable, because as soon as you have two different timbres, it creates a type of thing, which this is the same type of idea of creating a specific frequency so that you can travel somewhere else. And so for people doing meditation, this is a science I'm interested in exploring further and contributing to. And I know that there are many people who do this out there, but it would be great to have like a type of collective way to put these ideas together with acoustics. Like, how can we design new spaces to live for energetics, for family, for function, instead of just what's the cheapest way we can build this building, And I know people who are architects who are actually interested in this stuff, and people who design instruments that have taken those master manuscripts that were behind what the cathedrals were made from, which is like it dates back to Pythagoras, and puts it into an instrument. And this gentleman, Ithaca Strings, is going to be making me a 12-string or a 6-string Fadolin. Maybe it won't be 12-string, but those six, if it was a 12-string, the 6 strings would be the ones that were played. And they used to put sympathetic strings underneath that were tuned an octave lower or higher to give the instrument more of a celestial resonance. And it would sound more reverberant in a small space instead of it being dead. That's why the instruments that are modern, they're designed for a large space. So it doesn't quite sound the same as an instrument that is designed for a smaller space. Even this is in tune. This is a mandolin. That's not even in tune at all, but you kind of got that. It's got a weird like something happens when you've got those little tiny differences. And now to zip it all up, the harmonics of the retrogrades and all these things can affect us in these ways. But I feel that we can do some more research, and we'll come up with personal also ways that maybe music can just help alleviate some of that by playing the right thing at the right time of day, thinking about what your heartbeat might be, and then thinking about what the BPM of the music, which is their beats per minute. That's something that, if you're not a musician, it's kind of easy to figure out BPM because it's your heart rate. Pretty much is like 60 a minute. For music that's calming, music that you want to calm down from a heavy day, they put on like smooth jazz at 71 BPM. You want to get people partying, it's like 120 to 130. Really hardcore partying, that's like 140 BPM. And then you just divide things, or that's my life. Like, all aside from all this, the things that I didn't learn, which were like the theories and the how to write it all out. That's what I've been working on for the last 20 years. And I'm almost finished with like mastering all of that. And it's endless mastery, man. I mean, we'll talk about Thelonious Monk some other time. But I could ramble on, but ramble on.
Well, also, one thing I do want to bring up is that when I was I'll tell this little thing before somebody else gets too impatient.
I'm done talking.
This person's, I think, on a window, but what I was going to say was, one time when I was making the sprays, listening to your music, it tended to empower the sprays as I was making them. I saw the notes going into the liquids themselves. So yeah, that I want to point out too. That can happen when you are using tones to create these different things, solid or liquid, and or written, same difference.
Yes.
So the thing I do need to get to is the galactic portion here. This person has been not necessarily looking at their watch, but it's kind of the same mannerism. It's like,
yeah.
But I think they're more concerned about something else that's going on. So it's like not anybody here. It's like they're more concerned with what's going on. So yeah, on the show we re-recorded yesterday, was about messages, but this one is about the musings of the soul. There's also messages in that. And one of the ones that was here yesterday, her name's Vessa, is the one that's going to talk this time. But yesterday's was Elena, now it's her partner, but it's like, yes, now you can actually come in, yes. First I thought it was going to be Isaac. He goes, no, I'm not going to do it this time. So it's like, okay, I don't know why, let's see, yeah, she's doing the same thing, so, okay. Okay. Vessa, I know you have limited window. I don't know what the hell this is going on, but okay. Let's see. Talking about creepy energies. Okay. Okay. Yeah, through the crystal. Yes.
Oh yeah, I should put this in front of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, this is indeed Vessa, and this particular conversation is most fascinating to us here. Even though I'm the only visible one to him at the moment, there's many of us here listening in, and attuning would be area like a large tuning fork. That think of it when you strike the tuning fork, how it keeps reverbing. This is essentially what we're doing, but as like an egg timer goes down, it goes. And then this denotes the timing by which the window is relatively open for us to speak this way. This topic of different tonal frequencies and the musings of the soul, such as yourself, Mark, dear Lily, and both of you here. This is quite an interesting topic because the fact that music could literally clear every single one of these calamities that's taking place right now. The reason I chose to come in for this is because I tend to integrate myself into that part of the culture, even though I did not say this on my original interview that I spoke on Interstellar Council. I do also enjoy a variety of different musics and different tonal frequencies that help keep spaces clean and clear. Your music yourself, Mark, along with the musings of your partner Lily, have also brought peace to the energies in that way, despite what was taking place earlier in this week or in this day in particular. Those were just, as someone would say, almost like badges of honor because of the slap that you got hit with by the, let's say, alternating mentality, let's just put it that way, of the special ones that are out there at the moment. This particular topic is something that is very badly needed. Also, I wish to state that the tonal frequencies of, say, 444 and all those above are not necessarily the same as what was being spoken of yesterday with the false messages that were coming through with different number codings. That is different. This is the prime example of a positive synchronistic sound and light wave being utilized within the music, subtle tones and not so subtle tones. So even in our limited time, I can take a question from either one of you.
So in general, because I'm feeling this, I really am feeling like things closing in. So I getting what's going on. So in general, I think I would just like to leave this with some sort of encouragement for people as far as exploring music and what can be done, and then how do they expect to see a result where they know it is helping them?
You feel some of the chaotic energies of today, all of you. Yes, this is it is the opposite of that. Whereas, like when you played the flute in the beginning and you have been utilizing your instruments, those tones, and that the emphasis and the intention you've been putting through those, especially with the clearing in the beginning, whereas it began to level those energies very much, like I said, with the tuning fork and that frequency, keeping an area clean and clear. It is that leveling feeling that you will feel along with a chill that is rising upward that may even resonate up your spine or resonate around in your mind, and especially your heart space and in your intuitive spaces. That something is clean and clear. Your space will feel larger and also feel much more soft to the touch, if that makes sense. Well, this is how you will know when a space is actually clean and free of those particular energetic contaminants, which you are also feeling right now as the overbearing, distant presence. This is actually more of an annoyance to us when these things take place, but we do not wish other calamities on yourselves. This is why you were warned about this. So I can do one more. If you wish to ask anything, Mark, this would be the time.
Yes. What I'm going to ask with a tone, okay? What makes something like that, what makes people think that's like a happy sound? What does that do for you? And could you talk about just the importance of just 1, 2, and 3 notes?
The importance of the 1, 2, and 3 notes, also the ABC, as you were saying as well, within that particular tonal frequency that you played, yes, there is a happiness upswing, but at the same time, it felt like there was an energy almost chasing behind it with that, attempting to try to consume that tonal frequency, which is impossible, by the way. This is what that overbearing frequency attempted to get rid of the tonal frequency of that. This particular tone frequency in your lives, particular the 1, 2, 3. This is what is quite interesting, because when you were attempting to, as you would say, put the key in the ignition switch, this is what would also begin that process of also clearing. You can do this on winded instruments as well as stringed ones, such as violins, harps, mandolins, all of them, guitars, all of them. This is something that 1, 2, 3 is important with, or also the ABC tones, that when you were utilizing them, it began to also create this almost chasing effect, very much like a snake chasing its own tail. Not in a bad way, though. Not in the old Ouroboros type of way. I am saying that it is something's attempting to consume a frequency that also harms it. You see, it's attempting to stop the user from creating this. So creating that ignition switch is actually crucial to keep that effect in play.
Okay. So I will not doubt my musical inspiration, but I was wondering if there's anything you might be able to share that would be helpful in healing and reconnecting me fully, and I guess anybody with my heart, and just what to avoid. If you're inspired, I mean, anything you're inspired to share, I appreciate it. Thank you.
What to avoid is the reaction of the snake chasing its tail, like with that overbearing energy. What to be inspired by is the reaction you have to the music, and to open up your heart space again, keeping it clear, keeping yourself in the level area, no matter what the overbearing energy is. And yes, these things are upsetting. They're quite upsetting. It is more or less like a person has been killed right in front of you, essentially. That's essentially what these types of like Mercury retrogrades and all of them tend to either accentuate or try to push away, and there's a chaotic soup going on, and the thought forms of others and such. Not getting yourself sucked into the drama of everything, but at the same time, also allowing yourself to surrender to the flow of that particular creativity, keeping your heart connected at all times, because the hatred that is in the air will always try to disconnect that particular set of harmonics, which is completely impossible, mind you, but you can disconnect and reconnect, in a manner of speaking, from that, by allowing your mind to over suppress with the reactions against the heart. Meaning the mind and the heart must work together in that respect, as not to react to the overbearing presence that I have spoke about earlier, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so again, I think if I'm hearing you correctly, one of the things, again, it's important. One of the things that we do here on the lifting is we just try to do our best to let people know what is unseen that is affecting them. And obviously right now it's huge, and a huge weight is now trying to form. For someone who's musical, instead of embracing this as being as meaningful as you think it is, it's really not. It's really trying to maybe, instead of thinking, I am going to now explore this and become a part of this, it really could be the, as you called it, the ignition switch to say, I may need to play some music right now to help clear some of this,
Yes.
because this certainly is a representative of who I am. And I'm not going to fall for letting it think it's representative of me, because I know myself so well that I'm like, wow, them's a lot of words out there, them's a lot of anger out there, them's a lot of whatever, but I choose to have a little bit better space around me right now. And so when this is occurring, there is an opportunity within music to do what's necessary to clear the space, to be more representative of yourself and what you really want, instead of falling prey, let's say, to what's trying to be overlaid upon you.
Yes, the tuning fork also idea will also help with this. But there is a phrase that you can also use for your last affirmation and blessing for this, since you did not have one. Just know that hatred, or the fires of hatred, are the enemy of the fires of creativity. It always has been. This is, if I could give any advice here, fires of hatred are always the enemy of the fires of creativity. So, with that said, that snake chasing its tail, or what's trying to kill that ignition switch, do not let it grab your own tail and consume you. You allow it to always be convoluted in the chase, you see, by always being creative and always being one and grounded, you see.
Keep creating, right?
Creating, yes. But
that's it.
Yes, but it's at this time I must close the conduit because of the current events taking place. So the tuning fork is actually close to a standstill for the conduit opening. So I must depart. This was a very, very fascinating conversation, and hope to include myself and my other people in on this. Surrounding people, send blessings to you all. Thank you.
Blessings to you as well. Blessings to you both. I've got about 1% power left on my device, so.
Well, good. Since she did the affirmation and blessing, we're really coming to a close. We hope this helps everyone out there be a bit inspired to, again, turn the music back on, find what represents you, be creative, remember to hum, remember to sing, remember to listen to the birds, and, listen for the sounds of nature, which are quite healing of themselves. Take the time. Take the moment to do that, and do not let a heavy overlay then which will try to make itself appear to be now who you are. Don't let it take hold, and just let it be itself over there, and, do all of its chasing at once, and find the music within, find the music on the radio, find what inspires you. Mark has given his calling card to be able to reach out to him as well, and keep doing what you're doing, keep growing and exploring.
Yes, so thank you everybody for watching this episode of Lifting with Mark Widyak. We'll have future episodes on him fairly soon, but from the timing and airing of this episode. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Mark, for being on. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Blessings to you all.
Blessings to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thanks, honey.